Welcome to the special meeting of the Glendale City Council called City Hall in Your Neighborhood. Call to order at 6:14 p.m. May we have roll call?
Yes, council members Brotman, Garpetian,
Here.
Kasakian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Mayor Asatrian.
Here. And may we have your report?
The agenda for the Tuesday, October 15, 2024 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on October 9th, 2024 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Great, thank you. Before you move forward with the rest of the agenda, I just wanted to note and say thank you to everybody that is here. We're looking to change the format. I know we've called it City Council in Your Neighborhood. We changed it up to City Hall in Your Neighborhood, making sure that our department heads and staff are also present here. The format will also be changed in there'll be some key issues and updates provided facing you, because this is supposed to be more of a town hall format from staff, after which we'll have oral communication, and then we'll have a mix and mingle, and you'll have an opportunity to connect with each of us and all the staff. And I'm hoping that Mr. Galanian can also, at the end of the presentation, point to some of the department heads and key staff that are here, so you know who's in the room and you can connect, whether you want to talk about arts and culture, parks, water and power, and so forth. So thank you for being here.
The first item on the agenda is leaf blower ban update.
If I may, Madam Mayor, members of City Council, good evening. Welcome to Glen Oaks Canyon neighborhood and the neighborhood members of the community. Just one housekeeping item. I was told that the restrooms are outside this room around the corner if you ever need to use it. With that, we have an exciting lineup of 4 presentations for you this evening, starting with the leaf blower ban update, and our sustainability officer, Mr. David Jones, will make that presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor and City Council members of the City Government. It's nice to be in front of you today to talk about the ordinance that the city's passed regarding gas-powered leaf blowers. So it's take a couple of minutes, and we'll go with the questions. So again, my name is David Jones. I'm the Sustainability Officer of the City of Glendale, and I have Nora with me here, who's our Sustainability Associate in our office, who help us work on this ban and get this ordinance in place. Next, please. So in February of 2023, the City Council directed staff to go out and research and prepare an ordinance regarding gas-powered leaf blowers. So with that direction, staff went out and talked to other jurisdictions and other cities that have such ordinances. And with that information, we prepared an ordinance and brought this to City Council in July 2023 for introduction. The ordinance was then adopted by Council in August of 2023. And I'll talk a little bit about what is actually in the ordinance now. Next slide, please. So again, we're talking about a gas-powered leaf blower ban ordinance. Next, please. So as the title says, it bans the use of gas-powered leaf blowers in the City of Glendale. That's the only type of equipment that this ordinance relates to at this time. Next, please. Property owners are responsible for ensuring compliance with the ordinance on their property. So if you have a landscaper come to your property, and to do that work, you must make sure that that landscaper is using an leaf blower, not a gas-powered leaf blower. Next, please. So as mentioned earlier, this ordinance was adopted in 2023. Over the last year, we've been focused on education, and that education is focused on a number of things. It's really much focused on working with the landscapers, getting them up to speed on the ordinance, getting them up to speed on the different types of equipment that are out there that they can utilize to be in compliance with this ordinance. And also, we have reached out to homeowners associations and sent information to homeowners about the ordinance too. We've also undertaken a number of demonstration events, so bringing the makers of this electric equipment together with the landscapers so we can show them how it's used, what works, what doesn't work. So that's been very effective. And we are going to continue this outreach over the next year or so. Regarding enforcement of the ordinance, this is a complaint-driven ordinance, so we will receive a complaint, and if our code enforcement department receives the complaint, they will go out to where that complaint was stated, and they will try and find out what's going on. And if they find the complaint and they can follow it up, they will send a warning notice to the homeowner saying, you weren't in compliance with the ordinance. And that will be followed 30 days later by a $100 fine, $200 fine, a $500 fine if you don't come into compliance with the ordinance. Next slide, please. So as I said, we've just focused a lot in this ordinance doing community education. Next, please. We'll continue to work with the sustainability researchers to conduct community education. We've been working with this wonderful organization called AGSA, which is the American Green Zone Alliance organization. They work with cities across the country in helping them put these types of ordinances in place, help transition away from gas-powered equipment to electric equipment, and they've been a great help and a great source of support to the city, and also a great source of support to the landscapers themselves. We go there, we speak their language, and they know exactly how this equipment works. Next, please. As I said, we've done outreach in many languages to make sure that we're speaking to the people who use this equipment. We've had 3 in-person demonstration events, as I just said. We've done 30 locations, put flyers out about this ordinance. We've reached out to 50-plus landscapers and to talk to them about the ordinance. We've connected with 16 base community organizations. And to date, we've had 80,000 followers on our social media regarding this audience, and we have done a number of radio ads too. So we've really tried to get the information out there about this ordinance. Next, please. So we're going to continue, sorry, go back a little bit, apologies. So we are going to continue the education. Just Nora was telling me just last week, she had a landscaper call her who was interested in how the rebates work, and she talked them through that whole rebate process. So this is a type of support that we're going to continue to offer the landscapers as we continue to do the education on this ordinance. Next, please. So as I mentioned, there's a number of rebates and incentives out there. Some rebates and incentives are done by the South Coast Air Quality Management District. Next, please. The first one is a commercial electric lawn and garden equipment incentive exchange program. So as a commercial landscaper, you can get up to $1,400 available to you to transition away from gas to electric equipment. And we also have a residential electric lawn garden equipment. So as a resident, you can get $250 back from South Coast Air Quality Management District. And after this presentation, we'd be happy to talk to you at the back, the steps of how you go through getting those rebates if that's something that you're interested in. We also have Glendale Water and Power. If you live in Glendale and you purchase an electric piece of equipment in Glendale, you get a $50 rebate. If you buy it outside Glendale, you get a $40 rebate if you're a Glendale Water and Power customer, and that rebate will be applied to your next month's electric bill. We have a website, which is glendale.ca.gov/leafblower that has all the information about the ordinance. We also have a lot of information at the back here on that table, explaining the ordinance, how it works, but also explaining how the rebate program works. As I said, we'll be happy to talk to you through about the different steps of how you go about getting the rebate, or how you can work with the landscapers and provide them that information on the rebate. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to me today, and I'll pass it back over to you.
Next item up is we're going to take things out of order a little bit. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you. Next, we're going to cover traffic safety and parking around Glen Oaks Elementary School. And Lieutenant Tigran Topazikian is going to be a tag team of Tigran Topazikian, the lieutenant, and our parking administrator, Tina Artunian.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city manager, staff, executives, and esteemed residents of the Glen Oaks Canyon neighborhood. My name is Tigran Topazikian, and I'm the lieutenant in charge of our traffic bureau. Tina is unable to make it tonight, but we have Pastor Casanova who is the principal traffic engineer with the City of Glendale, and we are attached at the hip and partners related to traffic enforcement, engineering, and education. A brief overview of what we will cover today as a team are traffic safety and parking in the Glen Oaks Elementary School neighborhood, some enforcement and citation statistics, school traffic, and traffic reports and calls for service. What we wanted to provide all of you is a snapshot next slide, if you will advance, of what happened in a 12-month period. We took the date from July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024. And specifically in your neighborhood here, there were 112 traffic-related calls for service, 25 citations were issued by Glendale Police Department personnel, and there were 8 reported traffic collisions. Those numbers are not reflective of all the work that is being done there, because many people will get pulled over for a traffic offense or violation and receive a warning. And so the warnings are not part of these numbers. These are actual where an officer issued a citation which required a court appearance or traffic school or a fine of that sort. And as far as the traffic collisions, these are the ones that are reported. There are other collisions that happen where the motorists simply exchange information and they're satisfied with the information exchange and they report it up to their insurance, or they work it out amongst themselves, and those numbers are not reported. So next slide. Specifically around Glen Oaks Elementary School, please keep in mind we have over 30 schools in the city of Glendale, part of the Glendale Unified School District. In addition, we have private schools and we also have daycare centers. So part of the police department's responsibilities, the traffic bureau's responsibilities, are to be present in the vicinity of the schools on a daily basis. Specifically with the school has implemented several measures to enhance traffic safety and traffic flow for the safety of the community, which is all inclusive of all of you in this room, students, parents, teachers, staff, and anybody that's going through the school district area. We collaborate with Public Works on a near weekly basis with everything that happens in the city, specifically related to traffic. So Public Works did install a no U-turn sign at Waltonia that prohibits vehicles making a U-turn, and it's subject to a citation with a court appearance and a fine for violating that law. The trees were trimmed around the schools for improved visibility of pedestrians and the vehicles that traverse the area. School crossing guards enhance the safety, and they're at a majority of the schools helping the students and the parents cross. And student pickup and drop off was adjusted down only to 1 lane, improving traffic flow and safety. We also have a couple things that traffic engineering is going to address with the visibility and planned left turn lane. So Pastor, I'm going to give it to you for a second.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council and the Glen Oaks community. As mentioned by Lieutenant Topozikian, there's a combination that we work together with, almost attached at the hip, as he mentioned, engineering, enforcement, and education, right? So we work together on the engineering and enforcement, and here we are providing some education as well to the community. So what we've recently done near the Glen Oaks Elementary School was installed high visibility crosswalks at the Glen Oaks and Mount Carmel intersection. We know that intersection gets busy in the morning. There's a lot of children and parents crossing the street, so we were able to install those high visibility crossings for pedestrians crossing Mount Carmel. In addition to that, staff has identified some safety improvements in terms of the left turn operations or left turns off of Glen Oaks onto Mount Carmel. And so Public Works has planned some improvements to the striping to align the left turns and install an eastbound left turn lane there. So that's a summary of what we have in action right now. Thank you.
Next slide, please. And parking enforcement and activity is also a major part of the Traffic Bureau. Newly promoted Tina Hartunian, who is the parking administrator, and a police services administrator will oversee everything parking related moving forward from an administrator capacity. However, I'd like to point out that it is a vital role in this community and around the schools. We assign staff to the Glen Oaks Elementary School about 3 times a week. With the staff that we have, we rotate them throughout all the 30 schools, but on average, we do see the need to have our parking personnel here at Glen Oaks Elementary, and on average, 3 times a week, the enforcement officers that drive the Jeeps are there during drop-off and pickup. Maybe not directly in front of the school, but they're in the neighborhood and also on the side streets. There were 40 calls for service in the past year directly related to the schools, related to parking. 18 citations were issued. That's from the Glendale Police Department. And we also respond to not only the school, but everything related in this neighborhood, the Glen Oaks Canyon area. SP Plus, our vendor, our parking contractor, has a GPS locator on their vehicles. And when we ask them in a 1-year period from July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, how many times their vehicles pinged in the specific neighborhoods, they were able to provide 4,000 times that they have been in this neighborhood addressing parking-related concerns, issuing citations, and providing warnings. So while you might not see them, the data does show that there is a lot of police presence, in this neighborhood. And lastly, as I leave everyone today, I'd like to say that there is an email system set up for all the residents and all the stakeholders, and it's trafficcomplaints@glendaleca.gov, just like many of the staff's emails. It's just traffic complaints with an S at glendaleca.gov. I also have the Traffic Bureau Sergeant and 2 more officers outside. If you have any specific questions or concerns or complaints that you'd like to address, we will be out there to take the feedback from the community and be responsive to your needs. And that concludes the presentation that I have with Pastor. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be another joint presentation on homeless services, starting off with Arsene Isayan. Arsene in the house. Arsene is our homeless services manager, followed by our police officer, Goyrun Petrosian.
Good evening, Mayor Asaturian, members of City Council, members of the Glen Oaks community. Really happy to be here tonight. I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the Glendale Homeless Response System, who we are, what we do, what type of services we offer, and then after the meeting, if you guys have any specific questions, more than happy to meet with all of you. I guess I'll start, and then Officer Petrosian will go ahead and cover PD's portion of this presentation. Before I get started, I did bring some resources. The flyers and the resources are available at the table in the back. I brought the Homeless Services flyer for homeless outreach. If anyone is in need of homeless outreach or they're requesting outreach, if they see someone in the community that needs help, we have listed all of the different agencies, including the police department, and how you can go about requesting outreach services in the city of Glendale. So please make sure to pick up a flyer on your way out. We also have a flyer for our local shower program that's available twice a week here in the city of Glendale, operated in partnership with the Salvation Army of Glendale and the city of Glendale. So I have that information for you, and some additional outreach services that are available through our partners within the LA County area, countywide. Homeless prevention programs, and also some emergency shelter information and local and countywide access centers that clients can access. So there's a ton of information back there, and I also have my business card, so you're welcome to connect with me if you have any questions. So I'll dive into the presentation very quickly. So the city of Glendale has its own continuum of care. We receive funding directly, federal, state, local, countywide, to operate our homeless response system here in Glendale. The county has 8 service planning areas. City of Glendale falls under service planning area 2. However, we're in a very unique position where we share territorial boundaries with Service Planning Area 4, which is Metro LA. And as if some of you are familiar with the annual homeless count, the SPA 4 has some of the largest number of unhoused individuals in the county, and we share territorial boundaries with SPA 4. So it's really important for us to have local resources, but also partner with the county to make sure that we have sufficient resources to serve everyone that's coming through our continuum. So I wanted to give you a little bit of just a visual of where we are within the county. I think that's really important to highlight before I dive into our services. Okay, so under our continuum of care, we have what we call the coordinated entry system. And through this coordinated entry system, we have several providers that work with the City of Glendale to provide resources to our unhoused clients and those who are facing homelessness, at the risk of becoming homeless. The first agency that serves as our lead agency is Essentia. They're a nonprofit organization located off of 1851 Tyburn Street here in Glendale. They have a 45-bed emergency shelter, and they also operate different types of programs. Mental health case management, employment case management, occupational therapy, and different types of services for homeless individuals that are coming through our continuum. In addition to Essentia, we also partner with the county, LA Family Housing. It's a nonprofit agency located within Service Planning Area 2. This agency helps homeless individuals and families who are in need of services, whether it's prevention or housing services or mental health. We also work with Home Again Los Angeles. This agency was formerly known as the Family Promise of the Verdugos. Now they are called Home Again Los Angeles. They provide services to our homeless families locally. We also partner with LA Family Housing as well, as I had previously mentioned. The third agency is the YWCA of Glendale and Pasadena. We work with the YWCA to provide services to those who are fleeing domestic violence, victims of DV, and their families. And lastly, we work with the Glendale Youth Alliance, which is another local nonprofit organization that serves our homeless youth or youth at risk. And we partner with the Village Family Services, an agency located out in LA that services our area. So as you can see, we have partnerships both locally with local nonprofits, but also countywide to pull in additional resources. I have provided some links here, some helpful links for anyone who is interested in homeless services. 211la.org, LA Family Housing Find Help. These are all resources that you can click on, and based on the area that you're in, you'll be able to find service providers that are servicing clients within those specific areas. Oop. Let's see. Okay. So I already went over the outreach flyer, kind of included that as part of my presentation, and I have copies of the PowerPoint if any of you are interested. Just very briefly, we do have outreach services here in the City of Glendale. We partner with our wonderful police department, our core unit, Community Outreach Resource and Engagement Team. They provide homeless outreach services. I'm sure many of you have seen them out there working with our unhoused individuals, trying to get them connected to services. They also have been most recently doing encampment cleanup activities, which PD will dive a little bit more into later. Again, we work with our Home Again LA Los Angeles team. They also provide homeless outreach. So if you see any families that are in need, you can contact Home Again LA and they'll meet the families where they are to conduct intakes and get them quickly assessed and connected to vital resources in our community. And of course, Essentia has an outreach team that operates Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. They're out there as well, working and connecting with our unhoused friends, trying to get them connected through services, and try to link them to housing or sheltering within the city. Guess there's a little delay here. And I've also shared this flyer too. I have copies here. This is resources that are available through LA Family Housing within SPA 2 or Service Planning Area. There's important hotline numbers, veteran services, veteran hotline, mental health support, domestic violence, substance abuse services online, or a hotline that you can call in if you know anybody who needs services. So I thought it would be really helpful to provide this little resource guide that has all the important information in one place. All right. So, and just to kind of sum it up, the city does have various programs that we operate. We have rapid rehousing programs, which is rental assistance for those who need temporary relief, anywhere from 3 months to 12 months, where we can come in and help families regain stability and get back into housing and help with employment case management services. We also have homeless prevention programs. Anybody who, is in need of, assistance with rent arrears, other types of expenses that are going to put them at risk of becoming homeless, the city can come in and provide those resources. We have landlord incentives that we offer. Any landlords in the room who are interested in working with the city to help house our clients, we do have different types of landlord incentives that we provide locally. We have a year-round hotel program, which we've scaled up this year to help anybody who is unhoused and in need of interim housing. And so outreach services, shelter services, and of course youth programs that are available within our city. And these are the key partners that we work with. Of course, there's a few more that we do partner with, but mainly the Armenian Relief Society is another agency that we work with for rapid rehousing programs, Catholic Charities for homeless prevention. We also work with Door of Hope for transitional housing programs for our families who are fleeing DV. Okay, I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it over to Officer Petrosian to cover.
Mrs. Sayan, before you leave, thank you for your presentation. I think just giving our constituents some sort of contact information. Just a note, several weeks ago, the City Council did make a decision and gave direction to ramp up collaboration and support to make sure that we're also cleaning up the encampments. But it also helps us and the city if you are noticing something that needs attention, for you to also reach out to whether it's PD or homeless services, so they can also go out and tackle this. So if you can just provide maybe a phone number or an email that constituents can reach out to.
Absolutely. I have my cards, which I'll leave at the table. And then the outreach flyer that we have, there's actually an app, and the QR code is on the, let me see if I can go back to, we have the actual QR code, so if you don't want to call in, you can also just scan the QR code and put in a request online. That request comes to us. It comes to Homeless Services and to the Glendale Police Department, and we're able to respond to a lot of those encampment-related issues. So you could do it either online or you can contact us. We do have the phone numbers on the outreach flyers, but I'm more than happy to give out my number as well. I have cards that I'll leave in the back. You guys are always welcome to reach out and connect with us.
What's the number?
Oh, 818, thank you, 818-550-4474. Or you could just call in the Parks number, 818-548-2000, and ask to speak with Arsina Isayan, and then that information will be on my card as well. And I'll pass it over to Officer Petrosian to give his information and provide a brief overview.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I am Officer Petrosian. I'm the Glendale PD Homeless Liaison Officer. Just recently, I got this position as of July of this year. So I'm just going to briefly go over kind of what I do and what my role is. My contact information is up here on the screen just in case if anyone wants to contact me for any questions, concerns. My email's on there as well. Just to kind of quickly go over what our service model is. It's services first, engagement, encourage, education, and enforcement. Sometimes engagement, encourage, and education kind of goes hand in hand during one contact. How I sometimes get notified by if there's an encampment issue or a homeless issue is kind of what Arsene said was through that app, MyGlendale app, where we get requests that come directly to me, especially if it's encampment related. because sometimes there's encampments where I don't see it or it's fairly new, so I depend on a lot of times my community partners, that being the people that live in this community, to reach out to me through that app if they can't get a hold of me personally. So what I would do is go out and engage with the person and encourage them to get housing. I try to build a rapport with these people. A lot of times I don't know what their situation is. Therefore, I try to hear them out, listen to their story. Enforcement is our last step. I don't go out there with the mindset of just taking people to jail. I always want to provide them outreach and services. Once I do see that they are willing to get resources, that's when I would gather their information and relay it to either Ascensia or Arsena's team or our other continuum of care of service partners. As far as enforcement goes, I'm going to dive into that. There's been a lot of case law changes just recently as of July of this year. I'm going to go over that in the next few slides. But when it comes to enforcement, I've already kind of gone through this list of service model, engagement, encouragement, and education. I educate them on kind of the laws and the Glendale municipal codes that they're violating to avoid taking that enforcement action. And once I see that, they're not complying with my demands and kind of my complaints, that's when we go into enforcement, and that's either subject to being arrested or a citation is issued. When it comes to the cleanups, we give a 72-hour posted notice followed by more follow-ups and outreach services. However, those 72-hour notices are only when there is no imminent threat to public safety or public health. Grants Pass versus Johnson, that was the case law that I was referring to that passed in July of this year. Grants Pass, basically, it was a decision that permits cities to take enforcement action for public camping without violating the unhoused individual's 8th Amendment, even when there are no beds available. Prior to Grants Pass, there was Martin versus Boise's case law, which for many years said that we can only take enforcement action when there are beds available in shelters, even if that is one bed. So that was for, I think it was 2017, don't quote me, but 2017 to now, Martin Boise was in effect, which kind of hindered a lot of law enforcement action to take place against people camping out in public. These two Glendale municipal codes are the two most common codes that we are enforcing now after the new case law overturned. 9.28.030 of the Glendale Municipal Code is for unlawful camping, and it reads as, it is unlawful for any person to camp or use camp paraphernalia in or on any public street, sidewalk, or other public property for nighttime living accommodations. That means if you see a tent up, chances are they're going to be staying overnight, and that would meet the elements of that crime. When it comes to unlawful camping, I have to articulate what that person is doing as far as staying overnight. So if they have just a shopping cart and they're moving along and they just happen to be unhoused, I can't take enforcement action for that. There's other things that come, there's other municipal code violations, but when it comes to unlawful camping, it's, if you go to this section, if you search it online, you will see that it goes over what's considered camping and what's considered camping paraphernalia. Section 9.28.040 of the Glendale Municipal Code goes over the storage of personal property in a public place. Again, that's the it is unlawful for any person to store any personal property in or on any public street, sidewalk, or other public property, and that's for overnight purposes as well. So if you see people with a large quantity of items and they're storing it overnight in a public area, that's against the Glendale Municipal Code, being this one right here. If it doesn't meet that code and they're obstructing the sidewalk, there's a different section for that, obstruction of the, impeding the sidewalk. This was a very recent encampment cleanup. We did our services first model with this specific encampment. This encampment, if some of you may know, has been here for many, many years. This person has refused services. Every month we would send our outreach partners out there, and this person would refuse services time on a monthly basis. I personally have contacted this person numerous times, and every time he has refused services, I've always encouraged him, listened to his story, and recently I did educate him on the laws, and we posted, as you can see, the orange postage. That's what the 72-hour notice looks like. I try to post as many as I can so it's visible for that person, and I also try to do a verbal notice to them as well. But after the 72-hour, during the 72-hour notice, we still provided outreach and services to this person who did not comply, and we did end up taking enforcement action and cleaning it up. Luckily for him and luckily for us, I did end up linking up with this person, and I did end up getting him into a shelter after cleaning up the encampment. So there was light at the end of the tunnel for this person. And that is all for my presentation. Thank you.
And the last but certainly not least is a presentation on
Our favorite
emergency.
Deputy Fire Chief
Jeff Brooks.
Madam Mayor, council members, city staff, and public, thank you for joining us. My name is Jeff Brooks, the Deputy Fire Chief for the Glendale Fire Department. I also have Fire Chief Greg Fish here as well, and on-duty Battalion Chief. They just got a call and left. Tonight, we want to talk to you a little bit about wildfire preparedness and response in Glen Oaks Canyon and what impacts you as residents here. See if I can get this. There we go. So, a little bit about the canyon. 2,300 residents, total of 749 homes. Some of the values at risk we talk about: Glen Oaks Elementary School. When school's in session, that's about 600 students and 50 staff members. The Shoal Canyon Golf and Tennis Club, you all live here, a lot of traffic going up and down the road, a lot of folks that use those facilities. Some Glendale water and power infrastructure up at the top of the canyon, and restricted access also past the Golf and Tennis Club that leads into the landfill. As you go up the water tower up there, many of you know that's a helispot also for us. Not necessarily if we had a fire in your canyon, but if there was a fire in some of the adjoining areas, that may be a helispot that would be utilized for water filling operations. Thank you. So high fire danger time of year, you've pretty much heard it been said a lot, right? Fire season is all year round now, right? It's no longer certain times of the year, something that we're facing all year. Really, we start to see higher activity pick up June through January. For us in our local area, we're really concerned about Santa Ana wind times. That starts in October and continues all the way into March. If you look at some of the significant fire history we've had in Glendale, we see that sometimes later in the year due to those winds. So anytime there's increased temperatures, 90+ degrees, if we have relative humidities that are low, less than 20%, anytime wind speeds are up, greater than 15 miles per hour, and there's been a lack of precipitation. Nowadays, with the fuels being so dry, that lack of precipitation could be months on end, or it could be the last several years of drying activity. Those are also predictors of red flag indicators and red flag warnings. So for us, that puts us in a critical fire weather pattern where we may increase our staffing to make sure that we're prepared to respond to any emergencies. So automatic aid, we're very fortunate in this area. This is what we call the Foothill Mutual Threat Zone. And a mutual threat zone is basically that this area is considered values at risk also for Los Angeles Fire Department and the LA County Fire Department. California is very unique. We have one of the most robust automatic aid agreements and master mutual aid agreements that they're trying to replicate throughout the United States. We're very fortunate in how we operate, and the reliance and interconnectivity we have with our neighboring agencies. So those agencies are automatically dispatched to an incident in a specified area. So for you in Glen Oaks Canyon, if we have a fire, we're getting outside agencies to come automatically on our initial dispatch. Thank you, sir. So what does that look like? A wildfire response to Glen Oaks Canyon. From Glendale, you're going to get 5 fire engines, a Type 3 brush engine, which is a little bit more of a 4-wheel drive, high clearance vehicle, 2 battalion chiefs. From LA County, you're going to get 7 engines, a squad, which is a paramedic crew, 4 hand crews, 3 superintendents, they manage the crew, a water tender, a brush patrol, a bulldozer, 2 battalion chiefs, and 2 water dropping helicopters. From the Los Angeles City Fire Department, we're going to get 5 engines, a light force, which is a truck and an engine configuration, an EMS captain, a rescue ambulance, 2 battalion chiefs, 2 water dropping helicopters, and a 3rd helicopter that's going to be a helicopter supervisor, also called HELCO. And that other additional helicopter kind of functions as an air traffic controller in the air. As you can imagine, a lot of aircraft flying around in a small area, dropping water and having to go refill, needs someone to coordinate all those efforts. And that platform, HELCO, does that. That platform is also, if you can imagine you sitting here, you have a very limited view of what you can see. You can only see the ground and what's around you immediately. That elevated platform of a helicopter can give the incident commanders great intelligence on where that fire is going and how that fire is moving, what direction it's going, which directly impacts our decision making. Thank you. To talk a little bit about evacuations and alerting, there's several goals of alerts and warnings, and we want to make sure that we get the right message to the right people at the right time so they can make the right decision. Arm again, please. So a couple differences. We have evacuation orders, evacuation warnings, and shelter in place. Obviously, we don't take these lightly, right? Any evacuation order, warning, etc. For any alerts and warnings, we work hand in hand with the police department, right? As an incident commander, we make the decision on what areas we want to target for an evacuation. In conjunction with law enforcement will get out ahead and start making those notifications to residents for an evacuation. Next slide, please. Another piece of that comes with alerting, some things you can do before. Know your known evacuation routes, discuss your emergency plans, have a stay and go kit, make sure you have access to alerts and warnings, which we'll get into, and make sure you participate and exercise those drills. During an emergency, utilize the routes that are communicated in those alerts and warnings. Make sure if you have a household plan, you implement that, and leave quickly. We ask that you don't linger around. We get it, it's your home. The more you stay around potentially impacts the availability of resources to get into that area. And listen to those alerts and warnings. Next slide, please. So alerts and warnings for us, a lot of social media, all these social media accounts in the city are going to be pushing that information to you. That's going to have constant updates on what's happening on any incident we have, so we encourage you to follow those specific social media accounts. Next slide, please. Again, that's just another indicator. Twitter, Facebook, Glendale Water and Power, City of Glendale, Glendale Fire Department, Police Department has an Instagram, Fire Department has an Instagram, so any social media platform, you'll get regular updates. Next slide, please. Fire prevention, again, not only for us is a thing that we reduce risk, and community risk reduction is a big area of focus for us as a fire department. Our Fire Prevention Bureau is also responsible for our vegetation management program. Next slide. Most of you probably get a brush abatement notice to abate the hazards in your yard every year. I want to give a shout out to our inspector, Patty Mundo. Many of you have probably interacted with Patty. She is hands down does a phenomenal job of educating our public on vegetation management. Some of the other things we do, everyone's favorite, the goats. We use goats. Goats, a couple options we have for thinning vegetation, right? We have mechanized, which would be hand tools, which we still do use, and goats, which would be the animals. They're great. We put our inspections out. The goats come in this year. We use the goats on the upper part from Glen Oaks up to the baseball fields and over to Havercamp in that area. They cleared this year about 11 acres of hazardous vegetation on city-owned lots. Your neighbors in Chevy Chase Canyon, also the homeowners got together and put money together to have them clear some of their parcels that were interconnected for some of the residents. So goats are a continuous great resource for us to utilize in reducing risk in the community. We've also seen stricter building codes and landscaping requirements in the high fire hazard severity. A big portion of this city of Glendale is in the high fire hazard severity. That's set by the state and CAL FIRE on what those zones are. And also the real estate disclosures that are required as folks are selling homes. Next slide, please. So what does that look like? The fire hazard severity zones, if you can see the red shaded area on the map, that means it's a very high fire hazard area. So 2/3 of our city, if we want to talk about in Glendale, again, we have a lot of what we call WUI, wildland urban interface, and that's basically where our homes get into the edge of the brush and things like that. So 2/3 of the city is in that. We do require brush clearance in the high fire hazard severity, that's the red zone, and the ember intrusion zone is the yellow. Those areas say that there's a high probability if we have a fire that embers would have a capability to get into those homes and create additional risk. Next slide, please. Again, VMP inspections, we over 9,000 private properties get inspected. We provide brush clearance on city-owned properties within 100 feet of structures. It's an annual program on unimproved vacant lots as well. And again, our Fire Prevention Bureau does what we feel is an amazing job of communicating with our residents on what that is. And that really comes with when those abatement notices go out, folks calling back in and asking for more information. So thousands of phone calls and emails. Again, Fire Prevention meets with hundreds of residents, very active in getting out and meeting with HOAs. Happy to do that if you have more questions, business owners, et cetera. Next slide, please. So vegetation management laws, California has changed. There's requiring property owners to clear out flammable vegetation such as brush and dead and dying plants up to 100 feet. And what we're trying to do is get a good defensible space that we can work with, that you as a homeowner can be an active participant in reducing the risk that you have to your property. And that's required on all properties within a very high fire hazard severity zone. Next slide, please. And why does VMP work? And you can see in both these slides, you can see the dark area, if you can't see from that, basically 2 different residences have very good defensible space, and both residents have big fire impacts all the way around on all sides of those, but due to their aggressive and good defensible space, those homes will be able to be saved. That's a big deal to us, and that's a great area where you as residents can partner with the fire department to make sure you actively participate in that. Next slide, please. Home hardening is a big piece of that. What is home hardening? Home hardening addresses the most vulnerable components of your house with building materials and installation techniques. It increases resistance to heat, flames, and embers that accompany most wildfires. And homes lost to wildfire are most often ignited by embers. If you think again, when we talk Santa Ana winds for us in this area, those are winds oftentimes that we'll see the 40 to 60 mile an hour range, right? And we talk long range spotting on a fire. When a fire starts getting taken off, those embers get picked up in the air. Those winds carry those embers. A half a mile to a mile is not uncommon. So when you think when we're in a significant Santa Ana event, that fire can move rather quickly based on those embers. So home hardening addresses that. Next slide, please. So these are the vulnerabilities. If you look at your home, your attic vents, your eaves, right? Unboxed eaves. A lot of us may have old eaves with actual wood sheeting underneath that's exposed. That's a vulnerability. And so home hardening really focuses on things like keeping dander and leaf droppings and things out of your gutters, making sure your gutters are cleaned out. Focuses on good non-combustible siding, making sure your windows are updated. If you have wooden decks or anything, that you don't store wood or other things on top of those decks, but you keep all those areas clean. Wooden fences and things, really, again, home hardening is trying to focus on non-combustible materials that you can utilize in your home to lower your risk. Next slide, please. And this is a great example of how home hardening and defensible space work. Again, kind of like before, you can see all newer construction here have boxed stucco eaves or eaves that are encapsulated, and it really prevents that ember intrusion. You can't see the topography on this slide that well, but in a wind-driven fire, those embers could get cast into these homes, but since they have good defensible space, it makes our operations easier to protect those homes. All right, end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. All right, the next section we're going to go into is oral communication, because legally we're hoping to turn this more of a social opportunity for you to both get to talk to us and to staff. So I am going to allow for folks to come up, give you 2 minutes to make any remarks you want to. If you have a question, please pose the question. Yes. And then afterwards, we're all going to be sticking around, and then we'll point to staff so you know who's who in the room, and have an opportunity. If you have additional questions, you want to talk, please feel free to approach any of us and have that conversation. Yes?
I have a question. Hello, everybody. This is for Audrey or any of the board members. How late do we have this space for? Because I know we are on a time limit. You have it until what time?
We're supposed to be doing it from 6 to 8, Mr. Garpetian.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Okay.
last time I was here, there were a lot of questions about speeding and,
So
traffic
individuals will
enforcement and
have-
everything. And I
Individuals
wanted-
will have an opportunity to ask those questions and mix them
Right,
with us.
because we went almost over an hour for, yeah, okay.
Okay, all right?
Just want to make sure they have enough time to ask all the questions that they have.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Leslie Stout, Glennon? Hi.
I hate this. Hi, thank you so much. I love living in Glendale. I'm very happy here, but I've actually written this down, so I'm just going to read my remarks. So, I would like to talk about the tennis courts at Shoal Canyon. As I understand it, the park is owned by the city and is therefore taxpayer supported. The tennis courts are run by a private entity serving as a concessionaire through an agreement made with American Golf, who's the concessionaire for the golf course at the park. Since the deal was struck with Glendale Tennis, it's not me. The courts have doubled the price from $10 an hour to $20 an hour. Availability has become extremely limited.
I'm so sorry, please give 1 second. Can we look at what's going on with the speaker?
Okay. This is where I perceive an inherent conflict in that a taxpayer-funded park, which should be accessible to citizens, has become the fiefdom of a for-profit, privately held company. So all the courts are now blocked out on Saturdays from 9 to 11, so the academy can give private lessons. I take a lesson every Saturday from 8 to 9. I used to be able to play doubles with friends from 9 to 10. And I've now been told that I no longer have access to a court for that hour. I've been told I can play from 11 to 12, but the mornings are no longer available. So I'm here because I'd like to understand how this arrangement benefits anyone other than the for-profit private enterprise, which has effectively taken over a public space. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, 31 seconds.
Yeah, I think it would be great if staff could...
Madam Mayor,
yes.
I will, after we're done with oral communication, I will announce the department heads, assistant department heads who are present in the audience,
Okay.
raise their hands, and folks can go up to them and ask their individual
Or
questions.
follow up with the responses. Tony Passarella?
Good evening, Council. Tony Passarella. Number one, leaf blowers. Thank you for this. I have a lot of experience with these in my work, and they're environmental hazard, toxic to the human condition, and a noise pollutant. Horrible, so thank you for that. It's going to take a while for all these guys to get on board. Number two, what was the number two? Traffic and parking. Susie, please put up the slide. So 2 years ago, on a Wednesday, I was driving west on Glen Oaks. 87-year-old lady ran the stop sign right there, T-boned me, and I ended up like that, and I'm still in recovery. So to the speakers about that, the engineering, the crosswalks, that was because of me, because I back and forth with M. Ronnie for 2 months before they did that. But more needs to be done. Bumpers on both sides of Mount Carmel going east and going west. That would be a good idea, so that's another suggestion, if you will put that in. If any of you ever gone around for drop-off and pickup, it's a mess there. There's people double parking, cars have to go around. I mean, it's a really toxic, dangerous situation. So please, if you could do some more, I would appreciate that. I don't want to see any more of that action, especially when the kids are involved, right? And the homeless services, excellent. I would text Mr. Kasakian with these encampment things more than once, and the next day I'd go by, cleaned up. So kudos on that. Am I done?
14 seconds.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The homeless thing, Ascensia, great deal, 45 beds, but I have a friend who became homeless, more screening with the people. He's telling me stories of meth, smoking meth, stun guns,
You're done, Tony.
and groping going on in there. So please get somebody to screen these people that come in there a little bit better.
Thank you, Mr. Priscilla. Marie Freeman?
Can you tell them to stop texting? No, it has to. It won't ring with it. Tell them to stop.
Mayor Satrian, council members, city manager, and staff. I thank you, those who attended tonight, for this focus on our Glen Oaks Canyon community and our neighborhoods. I'd like to speak about one thing very briefly, the park. Thank you. As parks go, it's relatively small and closely surrounded by single-family homes and by traffic on Glen Oaks Boulevard. With its attractive, new, elaborate playground and the Bridges Clubhouse, well-maintained trees and gardens, this park has been a highly valued center for our canyon life, and it's a draw for families from beyond the canyon as well. A lot of people use this park. As with most good things, it comes with some problems. Over the past few years, the park has served larger and larger numbers of people who often put too much pressure on the place. The city has pages of regulations in place that would guarantee the safety and the health as well as the environmental quality of its parks. The problem is that the regulations aren't regularly maintained, and especially as this park receives more pressure from use. For example, some of the regulations, very reasonable: no alcohol, no fires, no nighttime parties, no trash, no dirty diapers, no loud music after specific hours, no use of the facility without reservations, no unleashed pets. There are 2 pages of restrictions on these parks, and actually a lot of it's common sense, makes sense to us. However, it's not followed or enforced. So we get all of those things happening: the diapers, the parties, the alcohol, the fires. So we are trying to figure out, how do we help maintain the regulations that the city already has in place? Are there some models in Glendale of parks where this works, where they've been able to kind of mitigate these kinds of pressures? Because as I say, it's not a very large park and it gets a lot of use. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Gish?
First of all, thank you, Council, for meeting in our neighborhood. A topic which is not on the agenda, but is of much concern to the residents, is the Shoal landfill and the new flares in particular. The date of operation of the new flares has slipped from September 2023, and that was the date I was given in December of 2021, to mid-2026 as of a month ago. So a slide of 3 years in 3 years. What has caused this, and is anybody working to expedite it? The new flares will reduce the NOx emissions substantially. Similarly, the fill date for the landfill has slipped from September 2026 as of May 2023 to 2028 as of September of this year. I understand that the fill date depends on trash deposits, which are hard to predict. But some of you on City Council wanted the landfill to close while you were on council due to all the prior broken promises to the community. Is council interested in trying to open the waste shed to reduce the time to closure? As an aside, the landfill is the best place in Glendale for a large solar array and/or batteries, but it has to be closed first. There are sections of the landfill that are already closed and covered. Are these being looked at for solar or recreation or anything? And finally, there is a biogas website, which we appreciate, and it has a fire plan for construction only. And since they're supposed to start testing of components and stuff in next month, I think, I would hope that somebody would update and relook at that fire plan to make sure that it covers when you start putting high-pressure gases into these engines and the high pressures around them and all of those kind of things because of the danger due to fire. Thank you.
Thank you. Shane Lee?
Hello, City Council. Hello, everyone. My name is Shane Lee. I'm the chapter leader for Glendale YIMBY. We're a pro-housing organization in Glendale. I wanted to address, first of all, thank you for doing this. I also love living in Glendale, and I want more people to live here, which is why I wanted to address housing with my minute of speaking. A lot of the issues we talked about tonight are rooted in housing, homelessness. The root cause is that we don't have enough homes. There's not enough apartments or places to rent. The fire chief also talked about fire safety. Well, one of the causes of that is when we embrace a suburban model of development where we build out instead of up. That means that when more people move here, we build out, which means people are further and further encroaching into wildfire areas, and that model of development is dangerous because it places people closer to wildfire areas. It's bad for environment, it's bad for wildlife. So I just wanted to talk about why it's important to build more housing. There's a lot of really cool places in Glendale, like this awesome park right here, but the housing around here is pretty low density. If we could build just like a couple apartments here, that could be hundreds more people would be able to live here and would be able to like
Please, I'm so sorry. We're a community, and we may not always agree, but we have to be respectful. Please, I would love for this town hall to embrace the beauty that Glendale has, which is community. So I apologize for cutting you off. Please finish your statement, and please be respectful of our neighbors and our
so
residents.
as I was saying, this is a great community, and it doesn't make sense to build a really awesome community and then exclude people from living there. I would love to live here, but I've seen these houses, I've looked at the prices, I can't afford it. If we could just build a couple apartments, more families could be able to walk to this park. They wouldn't have to drive. We also talked about, some of the people tonight talked about traffic. Well, one of the reasons we drive so much is because our zoning map, mixed-use neighborhoods are illegal in much of our city. You have to drive from your single-family home to a grocery store because it's illegal to build a grocery store in your neighborhood. If we could just open up the zoning to allow more land use freedom, people could just walk to a grocery store. We could just build a grocery store in Glen Oaks, just a small one in somebody's house, then you could just walk to the grocery store. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. Nicholas Gamboa? Gamboa. Apologies.
Hello, Council. My name is Nicholas, and I was wondering, as someone who's a service worker and is not as gray as the morning fog here, why haven't we increased the minimum wage? As we've seen, there's going to be a state proposition that's going to push the California state minimum wage to $18 an hour. And I've seen Glendale, I've lived in Glendale all my life. The minimum wage has the last few years, the minimum wage has stayed stagnant, around $16. I'd ask the City Council to consider going above and beyond, trying to push it to $20 an hour, as we've seen with the fast food workers and the fast food council that we've just put into effect. According to UC Berkeley's Institute of Research that they reported on October 1st, prices have only risen about 3.7%, which is about 18 cents to a $5 burger. And while there has been scares and false information about like, oh, jobs are going to be leaving for fast food restaurants, it's actually increased by 7,400. And as, again, someone who is a service worker, I would hope that you guys would consider to increase the wage to $20 an hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mike Mohill, followed by Audrey Zadokian.
Evening, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I lived in this canyon since 1977, and speeding on Glen Oaks Boulevard has always been an issue, and also the parking around the elementary school. Now, I've mentioned about the elementary school. Why don't they take the front area of the school where the parkway is and make it a cutout for people who can park their car there instead of parking it on the regular parking area? Now, I'm told that GUSD doesn't want to have that done. But we have to do something because the traffic on Glen Oaks Boulevard along where the elementary school is. Again, if we can do a cutout in front of the school, instead of having the parents drop their kids off on Glen Oaks Boulevard itself, I think this can cut down on traffic and other problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohill. Audrey Zarokian, followed by, and the last speaker is Janice Escobar.
Hi, everyone. My name is Audrey Zarokian, and I'm the president of the Glen Oaks Canyon Homeowners Association. Can everyone hear me back there? Okay, so I also wanted to talk about traffic control measures in Glen Oaks Canyon, specifically on Glen Oaks Boulevard and Hollister Terrace. There's only one stop sign on Glen Oaks Boulevard, and that's way at the top, near the entrance to the golf course, by the gates. So all throughout Glen Oaks Boulevard, there are no stop signs, no speed humps, no traffic control measures. So we have a lot of people speeding. Also on Hollister Terrace. Hollister Terrace is a windy road, just like Glen Oaks Canyon, just like Glen Oaks Boulevard, and you have no stop signs. There's one stop sign by the park, and we also don't have any crosswalks. The south side of Glen Oaks Boulevard doesn't have any sidewalks, and the north side does. Hollister Terrace has absolutely no sidewalks, so everyone is walking in the streets. People are walking their dogs, parents are pushing strollers in the street. And what happens is you have people speeding down Hollister Terrace, and they can't really see the turn because the Hollister Terrace is a windy road just like Glen Oaks Boulevard is. They can't see people ahead, people in the street, dogs being walked, babies being pushed in the stroller. So it's time that the city does something about this. I know that members of our community have reached out over the years to the city to ask for traffic control measures. Recently, Isabel Meyer has reached out to Mr. Casanova, but hasn't really gotten anywhere. So we'd really like to be able to have the city take this seriously before there's an incident. And like I said, Glen Oaks Boulevard has only sidewalks on one side, on the north side. There are no crosswalks except at the school. So if somebody is trying to cross over to walk to the park, to walk to the ball fields, to walk anywhere else in the canyon, they have to jaywalk essentially. So I really hope that the staff who's here tonight can look into this and see what they can do and finally do something for us, both on Hollister Terrace and on Glen Oaks Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice Escobar.
Hello. My name is Denise. It's pronounced Denise. And thank you so much for doing this. This is a beautiful thing that you've all come out here, set up, and listened to us. So I will bend your ear just for a second. My first concern is really about what happened to the hillside ordinance, having a house built on our street that used to be, that is practically vertical. And what happened, I remember people were turned down in the past for a certain slope that was too vertical, and that seems to have gone by the wayside. So we have there's something being built on our street, and it's absolutely inconceivable that this happened, but it's going on. So I want to register my displeasure with that. And also about the traffic, we had also on Arch Place where I live. We had a tragedy that did not happen in the canyon, but it affected 2 residents. They were both killed by a reckless driver in Glendale. Another part of Glendale, and as far as I know, the person that was responsible for this is out walking on the streets on bail or probably driving. So, and the other thing was my concern about what happened to our hollowed out recreation and arts programs. We have the beautiful Brand Park. I'm so glad we still have that. Wonderful things happen there. things like, but the art programs that were so rich and lovely and was part of the reasons we moved here 26 years ago, have been drastically reduced. They tore out all of the ceramics department. There's no more wheels, kilns. They were thrown and put into a dumpster. You know, when we first moved here, there were programs for kids. There was a park and play. They would come and they would have programs. Those are gone. And so I'm just really concerned about the quality of our life in Glendale, this beautiful city, eroding. I know you're all working hard, and I know you probably all have limited resources, so this is not personal, but I think I speak for a lot of us here that we're concerned. Thank you so much.
So before we wrap it up, if I could have Public Works staff raise your hand. Just take a look around the room. Water and power? Right there. Our police department looks like it's in the back. Fire is clear. Community development. So anything dealing with permits, arts and culture? Parks and recreation and homeless services and community services? All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Are we allowed to comment or say anything?
So, yes, I think Mr. Galanian was going to make a few comments, and then if you want us to go first.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I was going to introduce staff that were here, so you already did that. But I noticed some of them are taking notes. They've been taking notes, so if you don't go to them, I encourage staff to go to the speakers and start a conversation with them and provide the latest update on what they've been asking for.
Madam Mayor?
Please.
So I noticed that when some of the questions were asked by the residents, and first of all, thank you for everyone for attending, but when some folks raised some issues, there was a lot of heads nodding and agreement. I understand we want to keep this social and folks can mingle with us and ask us questions, but some people may not make it to the staff person when that question is asked, or the staff person may have to repeat the answer a few times. So for the sake of efficiency and time, at least for instance on the tennis court issue and those other questions that were raised, can we have the director of the department come up and perhaps give a response that everyone can hear? There's no objections from any of my colleagues? That would be
My colleagues
request.
don't have an
Mr.
objection.
Bolanikian?
Good evening, Mayor, Satarian, members of the council. So in regards to the tennis courts, since Fremont Park tennis courts, we have 8 courts at Fremont Park. The entire park is under construction. So the Glendale Tennis Academy, who operated the concession at Fremont Park, moved over to Shoal Canyon Tennis, golf and tennis. They currently have an agreement with American Golf to operate the 10 tennis courts. And we will be RFPing the Fremont tennis courts within the next couple of months. We'll bring a report to council, and we'll be RFPing it and looking for a new operator.
So the impact on those tennis courts right now at Shoal Canyon is a direct result of the renovations that are currently underway at Fremont Park?
Correct. Okay. And once when Fremont opens back up, we hope that the programming at Shoal Canyon will go back to Fremont, which will free up additional courts at Shoal Canyon.
Thank you. I believe there were several questions on traffic measures that dealt with Public Works. You can have staff, if you do have an answer, if it is something that you need to look into to provide more details, we do have the individual's contact information as well. The staff would, sure.
Of the City Council and of course the Glen Oaks Canyon community. There are several issues, and what we could say is that we're well aware of the challenges of Glen Oaks Elementary traffic as well as speeding issues in the area. We are looking at different measures, but we always do encourage the community, especially with the traffic calming concerns or speeding, to contact us directly because it is a community-driven program, and it helps us to hear where the issues are so we can help look into it a little further, or more in depth. I'm sorry, not a little further, but in more depth.
So, Ms. Zarokin, I believe that, so just to be respectful of the dais and what we're trying to do here, I'm happy to personally follow up with staff and speak with the HOA after, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, first, thank you all for being here tonight. I was here about over a month ago, and I heard all the, concerns and complaints about the speeding, parking, and everything else, and I promised that we will organize a meeting. When I brought it up at the council level, our city manager mentioned that this meeting was coming, and it was a good coincidence that everything fell into the right place. But as far as the entire Glen Oaks Canyon and Hollister Terrace in this area, I think we need to do a traffic study and see how can we put some measures in place as far as engineering goes to calm down and slow down the traffic. And also within that study, when we are trying to put some measures in place, get the community members involved through the HOA and their board members and everyone else who wants to be involved. So it will be something that you have a feedback, but also we have the engineering that did the research and comes up with some suggestions, constructive suggestions to slow down the traffic and also make sure it's safe for our public safety officers to address any emergency cause that comes in. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here and ask all the questions that you have. We are here, the staff are here, management, city. This is the whole team, so we are in your disposal.
Madam Mayor, would you like me to introduce department heads? I'll do it as quickly as I can.
Before you do, Councilmember Najarian, did you have any comments?
I'd just like to thank all of you from Glen Oaks Canyon for attending. This is one of our best attended city hall in your neighborhood. Please remember that you can always reach us by email, by telephone at the council meetings, or by showing up at the council meetings and letting your opinion and your concerns be known. We're just as responsive off the public dais as we are on the public dais. So thank you for participating. I hope that this leads to greater input from the community so we can hear from you as to what Glen Oaks Canyon needs to make it a greater. Make Glen Oaks Canyon great again. Gaga. Glen Oaks. Okay. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So thank you very much for everyone that put this together and for your attendance.
Madam Mayor. I also want to thank all the residents for coming here. This is an incredibly special neighborhood, very bucolic. You drive through this canyon, doesn't feel like you're in Southern California. It could be any neighborhood back east where I was born, and it's an incredible place with some incredible public amenities. I know the focus today was on this park and the Shoal ball fields, but you go to the end of this canyon, there's another hidden gem of a park that I think few people in Glendale even know about. It's probably one of the best kept secrets. And this is one of the best kept secret neighborhoods in probably all of LA County. So you're all very fortunate to live here. And we're grateful for the input and the feedback that you give us. There was a question about Shoal landfill. I don't want it to seem as though we've forgotten about that. So I think at some point, Dr. Gish and whoever else, you can have a conversation with staff and they'll be able to answer it, although I'm seeing staff waving their hands wanting to jump in. So that's all. Thank you everyone for coming out. Really appreciate you.
Manny. No. I'm going to make the introductions. You can have individual conversations.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
All right. This is in no particular order. I just scanned the room, and as I introduce you, please raise your hand so the members of the public will know who you are. Starting with our city clerk, Susie Abadjian. From my office, John Taktalian, Assistant City Manager. Back there, Elena Bolbolian, Chief Innovation Officer. From Public Works, along that wall, Daniel Hernandez, Interim Public Works Director, Sarkis Oganessian, Deputy Public Works Director / City Engineer. You've already been introduced to Pastor Casanova, our Principal Traffic Engineer. From the library, Lesa Relayo Lozada, our Acting Public Works Library and Arts and Culture Director. Community Services and Parks, Onik Bulanikian and Arsina Isayan are here. From our Police Department, Chief Sid, back there. Captain Robert William, still here. Lieutenant Alex Krikorian, and a whole entourage of police officers back there for your safety. From GWP, Manny Robledo and Scott Mellon. Manny Robledo is our interim general manager of GWP, and Scott Mellon is our assistant general manager in charge of power. Fire Department, Chief Fish, still here. You met Chief Brooks. Community Development Department, Bradley Calvert, Director of Community Development. From IT, if you have any questions about your internet or your computer, Jason Bradford, our Chief Innovation Officer. I think I covered everything.
All right. Is that it? All right. Again, we're going to be staying after to mingle with all of you. Thank you again for coming. Talk soon. All right, meeting is adjourned at, do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right.
Second.